all 6 aspects of health. That's right, it's not about a big bank account, it's about your whole life. We share tips every week on our episodes to improve your physical, mental, social, obviously financial, intellectual, and your spiritual health. Today, we're focusing on how to improve our spiritual health regarding temptation. We got 3 awesome guests lined up that are going to give us 3 awesome tips on how to use temptation or get rid of temptation to improve our spiritual health. If you have never seen Millionaires Are Made, this is the show built on the fundamental beliefs that every person you meet knows something you don't, and there's something to be learned from everyone in this big, beautiful world. Here at Millionaires Are Made, we are on a mission to teach the world how to grow into the healthiest version of themselves, everyday growth that they can be. In the spirit of authenticity, and to remove any bias, persuasion, etc., we do not talk about tips or advice before the show starts. So what you're about to hear from these 3 awesome guests, it's going to be my first time as well. It's going to be authentic, straight from their life journey. Audience, this is an interactive show. Your comments, your questions, your remarks, all will be put on air and we will answer your questions live. Please ask as many as you have. There is no dumb question and we would love to answer them on air with our guests, so feel free to do that. Put it in the comments anywhere. If you want to be a guest on our show, I agree, you should. Everybody should be a guest on the show. Everyone has something to share. We're dropping the link right now. Just sign up, be a guest, and we'd love to get you on the show and share some of your knowledge with the world. If you have a topic idea, we love topic ideas. You can drop that, message us, DM us anywhere, or drop that in the comments right now wherever you're watching. We will take that, go find 3 awesome guests, and hopefully teach you a little bit about that topic. If you love what we do, which hopefully you do, feel free to like, share, do the little heart, subscribe. Wherever you're watching us, please show us some love so we can keep going and growing. I also love giving back and offer a free one-on-one consultation. So if you want to do that, that link's being dropped. I know a lot of things. I spend a lot of time with experts, so I definitely have someone that can help you if it's not me. But I'd love to spend 15, 20 minutes and just hang out, talk, and see what you got going on and see how I can help. Huge announcement. We do have a merchandise nowadays. Yeehaw. Check out the link we're dropping right now if you want some Millionaires Are Made shirts, magnets, calendars, etc. And I also want to take this time to shout out some of our followers. If you're not following us on socials, you will never get shouted out. So make sure you hit that follow button. On Facebook, Jacqueline Grant. Instagram, Bobby Kurtz. TikTok, Gnome Nation Creations. And on YouTube, Stefan Glazier. Yeehaw. Whew, what a fun, I love these intros. So much energy sometimes. All right, next up we have our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Cam Knight. Cam is a strategic thinker who turned career uncertainty into a path of mastery. After being laid off, he tackled the CPA exam, one of the toughest certifications in the world, by mastering learning techniques like mind mapping and speed reading. His success proved intelligence is a skill, not a gift. Now Cam is on a mission to empower others with the tools to learn faster, think sharper, and achieve more. He's also on this episode as a guest, so we'll hear from him on his spiritual side. Next sponsor is Samir Dasani. Samir is a certified health and nutrition coach specializing in the prevention and reversal of chronic and autoimmune diseases. If you have any ailment you think is with you the rest of your life, you might want to think again and go check out Samir. He's got some awesome science-backed ways to deal with just about everything. He focuses on reversing autoimmune conditions naturally without medications. Super cool guy. Go check him out. Next up, we have Craig Sadkowski. Craig is an awesome, huge human behaviorist and mentor who helps entrepreneurs not get burnt out and discover their true identity, purpose, and achieve growth in business and life. Craig's awesome. Go check him out. And our last sponsor for this part of the show is Sarah Jones. Sarah used to be buried in debt and a failing marriage, unhappy as hell, but still had money and was wondering why her problems weren't solved. So she wiped out everything she believed, went and focused and got rid of her shame, her debt, and now travels the U.S. with her husband in a happy marriage, teaching people a proper financial foundation. So if you have money troubles, go check her out and see if you can learn a thing or two. And that brings us to our first guest. Today, we're going to pull out Sean will be our first one. Sean, tell us, who are you?
Hey, yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me. My name is Sean Shakarami. I'm a former corporate America um, finance professional, CPA by trade. A few years ago, I decided to take more of an entrepreneurial route, and from there, really came to terms with who I want to be in life, and have become a spiritual mentor and I guess spiritual coach. Did strategic intervention training, and so use a science proven method, which is kind of great because I've always believed that science and spirituality go together. To teach kind of the fundamentals of the ancient practices from um, biblical times to help people navigate the complexities of modern day life.
Fascinating, fascinating. I'm gonna let you give your tip first, but I do want to see if you what you know about them Dead Sea Scrolls. Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
well,
Hold up
so
on
my
that.
tip,
We might
yeah,
bring
yeah, yeah.
everyone. We might save
I
that
can,
for the round robin.
I can get
Uh,
into a little bit of that. But yeah, my tip,
well,
and
hold
guys, I
on,
think
Sean. Hold on, Sean. If I wanted to improve my spiritual health regarding temptation, what piece of advice would you give me?
so. My piece of advice would be to find the root cause of what is creating that temptation in your life.
Okay. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so what a lot of people I think don't realize, what took me a long, long time to realize, and probably the most valuable insight I've gotten from my spiritual walk, is there's an emotion and an intention behind every action. It's just that the brain fires so rapidly that oftentimes we go straight into a behavior without consciously, our subconscious knows, but we don't consciously understand the emotion that's driving the behavior. And so I think the best illustration I can give is, for years and years I struggled with pornography. Um and that is a hard subject to talk about sometimes.
Very.
What was very freeing and what allowed me to break that addiction was understanding that the root cause came from early childhood trauma. And when I healed the root cause of those emotions and those false beliefs, those limiting beliefs, the behavior went away naturally. Without, a lot of people try to use brute force and just resist the temptation, resist the behavior, and that is a recipe for failure. But if we can find the root cause and heal it at that root cause level, that's what actually transforms true change.
And that's something that you do, correct?
Yes, yeah, I facilitate that type of healing. That's right.
Okay, good. All right. So, the many of you that may be watching that have that issue, check out Sean. Sean, where on your life journey did you learn this information?
I'd say that came about 3 years ago. I was going into entrepreneurship for the second time, and my first round in entrepreneurship was very, very successful, and my second round was not as successful, and I could feel the stress and the pressure was really eating away at my marriage. And we sought marital counseling, and then I actually went and got certified. I got taught by the same um, strategist, by the same therapist that taught Tony Robbins as well.
Oh, wow.
um, and when I realized that there are powerful techniques that are hypnosis based, science based, that help you unlock what's going on in the subconscious mind, that's what really changed my life.
That is fantastic. All right, Sean, I already know we're going to have a lot more to talk about. We're going to go to our next guest and we'll bring you out in the round robin here. Next up, we have Cam Knight, that may or may not be the on AIpreneur. Cam, tell us, who are you?
Hey, thanks for having me on. So, my name is Cam Knight. I am a coach, international speaker, and author of a dozen books in the area of mental performance, such as reading, memory, and concentration, as well as personal mastery, such as self talk, visualization, and goal setting. And for as far back as I can remember, I've always been a driven individual. And although I've had my fair share of success, I always felt like I missed the mark or felt short. And I wondered why that was. Like, why is it if I want to do something, I know what to do, I know how to do it, and I have the motivation and desire to do it. But for one reason or another, I can't or don't do it. So I set out on a journey to really get at this answer. And what I realized is that there's a part of our brain that's designed to hold us back and keep us from growing and making progress. And I call this part resistance. And it's a big wall that we hit anytime we want to do something, but we can't. So now I talk about internal resistance and how to help people get over that.
Fascinating. Fascinating. All right, Cam. If I wanted to improve my spiritual health regarding temptation, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
The most important advice I can give people is to be aware of the wanting mechanism.
Okay,
So if
tell
you'd
me
like
more
me
about
to,
that.
all right. So many of our challenges to temptations comes down to our wants. And that's because the part of the brain that creates wants and desires, it's completely unrestrained. It's creating endless wants one after another. The only job of this part of the brain, which I call the wanting mechanism, is to create wants. And it's cranking out wants and desires day in and day out faster than any one person can achieve. And you can think of the wanting mechanism like a simple on off switch that gets flipped based on certain cues. It sees a new pair of shoes, it wants it. The latest iPhone comes out, it wants that as well. Someone attractive walks by, and we want that too. And this switch creates so many wants in a single day, no one person has the time or energy to achieve in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Even if we lived multiple lives, we couldn't achieve, let alone enjoy all the wants our brain is producing. And that's because the wanting mechanism doesn't understand that your energy and resources are limited. It simply creates wants. Nor does it check to see if your want is actually achievable or fulfilling. It simply creates wants. And even while we're working on one want, the mechanism is creating other wants to chase. And so the wanting mechanism is the temptation. It's the reason you buy stuff you don't need, crave things that aren't satisfying, or why people cheat when they're already in a relationship. And if a person can understand that their brain is going to be producing endless wants, and most of those wants aren't going to be fulfilling. And as soon as we get that want, it's just going to create another dozen for us to chase. It can help us understand that many of our temptations, as powerful and as impulsive as they seem, they're likely not going to give us the result that we need. And so when we realize that, we can do a better job of checking and be cautious of the wants that we chase or the temptations that we follow or go after.
I love it. All right, where on your life journey did you learn this, Cam?
All right, so I learned this for two main ways. One is I struggle with the overactive wanting mechanism. My mind was always pulling me in all sorts of directions. As I mentioned, if I saw a new pair of shoes, I wanted it. If I saw a delicious looking cake, I wanted that too. And most anything that like my brain saw came across, it was pulling me towards. And it pulled me in all sorts of directions, and I really couldn't move it any one. So one is because of my personal struggle. But two is a lot of it I learned in my travels. I've traveled all over the world, all continents. And if a person travels to enough places and learns about the places, they'll eventually or inevitably learn about the history of those places. And what I learned is, I learned about kings and sultans and emperors. And when I got to know about their lives, what I noticed is that they had the same issue too. Like they spent their whole life creating empires, kingdoms, and nations, all because of this need and want for more and more and more. And what's really amazing is that their wanting mechanism was what led them to their ultimate demise. Because they kept chasing for more, it actually ended up leading to their death and losing everything they had. And so that was another way I learned about the mind mechanism, is that it'll never end. Like if we had everything that our brain is creating the temptation for, once we have it, it'll just create more temptation and it'll create more. And instead of waiting for it to end, we need to make a decision, conscious choice, saying, nope, this is what I have, or this is all I need, or these are the things I'm going to choose, and cut out all the things that are destructive and unhealthy.
Wow, thank you, Cam. Damn. All right, a lot of knowledge there. I think you saw that comment there. We're gonna move on to our next guest. We'll bring you out for the round robin. Thank you so much for dropping that knowledge on us. Next up, we have Damien. Damien, tell me, who are you?
Hi, I am Damien Bradshaw. I am the owner of Brands That Convert and the creator of the AI Brand Engine. Oops, sorry, creator of the AI Brand Engine, and which I help clients and brands, especially with their personal branding and being able to reach their goals within a timeline of like 3 to 6 months. So we basically help them to be able to run successful campaigns, be able to start their brands the right way, instead of spending like months, even sometimes a year or years trying to figure things out. We get them a lot closer to that when we run them through our AI brand engine.
Awesome, I love it. Damien, tell me this. If I wanted to improve my spiritual health regarding temptation, what piece of advice would you give me?
I would say to have someone accountable, have an accountability partner, especially for men. Men need that one accountability partner where they are able to rely on someone when they have that temptation coming. I think it's very important for us as men to have that.
I love it. Damien, where on your life journey did you learn that tip?
I learned it from my own personal experiences because even like Sean said, I had my own struggles, especially in the area of my sexuality and pornography. And my father wasn't really around much, and the home was a bit broken. But in going through my life, especially with my spiritual journey, and learning that, especially from people close to me, I've learned that I had to really lean on people who were stronger than me and who also had the same similar experiences or even had more, and that I could rely on to make good decisions.
Awesome, Damien. Thank you so much for your knowledge. Hey, let's move on to our round robin here and bring everyone else out. And audience, this is a great time for you guys to start asking your questions, and we'll get into everyone as well. Let's start with you, Sean. Sean, can you quickly refresh us what your tip was?
Yeah, my tip was whenever you're facing a temptation, typically these temptations are recurring, and finding the root cause, the root belief, the root emotion that is triggering this temptation in your life, because that's ultimately what you have to heal to change the behavior.
All right, Cam, what are your thoughts on that tip?
I wholeheartedly agree. So most everything we do, we don't consciously choose to do it. There's some process that happens unconsciously that triggers that temptation and makes us want to go after it. And so we really have to look at what's going on internally. Unfortunately, there isn't a really a direct line of communication between the unconscious and the conscious and the conscious mind. So a lot of the thoughts that we have in our head, we think we're thinking them, but they're really motivated and driven by what's going on internally. And that's what really makes us being humans and understanding our behaviors and drives and needs, and as well as our temptations, so difficult because there isn't a direct connection. But the more work we can do to actually go inward and learn about those things, the more we can see where our behaviors are coming from. And as Sean had mentioned, the more we can overcome the ones that we don't want and try to instill the ones that we do.
Dang, Cam, I love it. Damien, what are your thoughts on Sean's tip?
I wholeheartedly agree with Sean on this because you definitely need to get to the root of the issue before you can tackle anything else. And I believe that it also falls in line with what I was saying about having someone to be helpful and accountable. Because even if you are able to identify it, um, you still need, you're no man is an island. And a lot of people usually need help with their, their addictions and their temptations. They may want to change, they may want to get better, but some of them aren't strong enough to do it on their own. So, yeah.
Very accurate, Damien. All right, Cam, can you refresh what your tip was for us?
Yeah, my tip was to be aware of the wanting mechanism because our wants are unrestrained and will lead, if we're not careful, will lead us in all sorts of directions and keep us from moving in any one.
Damien, what are your thoughts on that tip?
Um, I wholeheartedly agree with it. I would say this: usually, the average person does know when they're about to crash or go back into temptation with something, but they don't like. We don't like to be faced with ourselves and our the fact that we are about to make a mistake, so we ignore it, and then we find ourselves in the temptation and the back in the addiction. But usually, the people around us can see patterns. And when they care enough, they will be able to tell us about those patterns. But we need to be open enough to know that, okay, they're telling us, okay, you're about to actually crash. So what Cam saying is very true. Or noticing those wanting, especially those wanting mechanisms. And when you realize this is something happening, when people point it out to you, and then you recognize, okay, this is what this person said before, then you can do something about it before it happens.
And Sean, what do you think about Cam's tip?
Yeah, I can't agree more. He is spot on. You know, the wanting mechanism, or if you want to take like a scriptural perspective on it, from the Bible, there's I believe it's a proverb that talks about the heart of man has endless desire.
Yes.
And one of the things that even came up in my training and what I do is ultimately we're trying to meet our needs. We all have basic, there's six fundamental needs of humans. It's certainty, which is your income, knowing how much money's coming in, having a roof over your head. And then um quite interestingly, God, created us to also want uncertainty or variety, because if we just had total certainty, life would be boring. So we also seek uncertainty. And there's a natural tension between those two values or needs. And then we seek loving connection and significance. And those four are our basic human needs. We have to meet those needs or we will die. In fact, they've done studies. If you give a baby food and water, like, to survive, but do not give it any love, touch, and connection, the baby will die without love. And then
That's
there's
a
two spiritual
tough
needs
test to
that
go
are,
through.
Yeah.
yeah, that are needed for fulfillment in life, which are growth and contribution. And what happens is, I believe, is we try to look external to meet these needs, when in fact, truly to meet those needs, it's all an internal resource. And as Cam said, to go inward, I think that's the key to solving this desire, this endless desire for more and more and more.
All right, question for you, Sean. You said you do a lot of work in addiction and especially specifically porn addiction. What do you find is the most common? This is for everyone. I'm just going to start with Sean. So, what do you find is the most common reason people give into temptation, like repeatedly? I mean, obviously, if you want that cookie, you're on a diet, and you eat the one cookie. Okay, it is what it is. You got tempted, you failed, whatever. But the long term like pattern of giving a temptation. What do you guys think feeds that?
Number one, I see it over and over and over again. It doesn't matter if it's pornography, doesn't matter if it's food addiction, doesn't matter if it's alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, vaping, whatever the case may be. It is almost always an early childhood trauma, because that trauma forms a limiting or false belief in the mind, that they may not even consciously, as Damien and Cam both have said, they may not even consciously be aware of that belief. And we have to seek out the patterns in their behavior to find it and to bring it up to the conscious level, to bring that awareness up. But what happens is between the ages of 1 and 7, our minds are programmed. We are wired, and we are typically wired by our parents and the people around us, by what they say and do over and over and over again. We're not that much different from a computer system. And so if you think about your iPhone, right? At least 2 times a year they come up with an iOS update. Well, we have to be updating our operating system as well through meditation, through spiritual practices,
Through watching
because
Millionaires Are Made.
yeah, exactly. Because between the ages of 1 and 7, that's when we all get hardwired, and if we get hardwired in a false belief about ourselves, for me it was worthiness. It was shame and worthiness, because I grew up in a shame-based household, and it was I wasn't worthy of true love and connection, right? And so then I'm going to go seek out that true love and connection externally, and I did that, through it manifested through pornography, right? So it's some false belief that gets installed at a very young age, almost every time.
Fascinating. Anyone else want to talk more about constant temptation?
Yeah.
Oh,
Go for it, Damien.
oh, sorry about that. I'm it could keep it short. There's this thing that says, what a man does, so he is. Whatever we practice, whatever we do along, whatever we think about, that's what we become. And it's usually sometimes the one thing that we don't like, the one thing that we hate, the one thing that we hate doing is what we tend to, become. But that's the key. Like you said, is something that a mechanism that you have to definitely look out for, and it's something that you need to undo. And uh, what you're going to really see is that a majority of the people who come through the pipeline with these addictions and these problems, it tends to always stem almost from the same place every time, from a place of wanting, they were lacking something, home, and they weren't getting it. Household is broken. They weren't seeing the examples anywhere at all. So they then retreated, and this is why I say this is the important part. They were looking for an escape, and that's the biggest part there that we have to realize, that when people have these addictions, when they have these temptations, the temptations is just the train that takes them to the addiction, right? It's the escape for them. So they hop onto that train and they go straight to addiction town, and they spend whatever time they want to there, and they come back on that train. And on that right back on that train, they're like feeling all the shame and guilt. So what we need to really look out for is the mechanisms. Or we hear that train coming, we need to start letting that train pass us and decide not to hop onto it. Because once you get on, you're not exactly going to get off just like that.
Damien, it looks like you have a question from the audience too. You become what you consume. Is that right? If you want to quickly answer that, and then we'll move on to Cam.
Yeah, like you do become what you consume, and we're not even talking about food here. Like whatever, if you're consuming a particular type of content all the time, and this is why they say that when you listen to the type of music, when you listen to, and it's not really particularly just that particular. It's just that's the container. It's what's inside the container that you have to watch out for, because you can listen to music, you can listen to all types of music, you can watch different types of shows. But what does it contain inside that? When you get inside it, then you realize that whatever's in there is either going to help you to grow or it's going to damage you even more. So if you're consuming that particular, what's the contents of that container all the time, and you know for a fact that you're allergic to it, well, guess what? You're going to have allergic reaction every single time. No matter how many times you go back to it. So that's what you have to be careful of, because some things are pretty up in a beautiful gift wrapping bowl that this is. It looks very beautiful. It looks very like something that can help you, but you have to be careful and look at it very carefully and examine the contents of it, and know that when you understand the patterns, then you can understand when something is given to you that is not healthy for you, and then you can say no.
That's really great stuff, Damien.
Hey,
I
Cam,
want to, yeah, can you hear me?
finish your thought, and then this question is next for you. The younger
Okay.
generation faces unique temptations with the pressure of constant connectivity, and social expectations. So you can
Okay.
lead into that.
All right. So, we're going deep, so I'm gonna continue the pattern and just like talk about it at a deep level. I do want to riff on what Damien just said, like what you consume, which is why I don't listen to music with words or lyrics because whatever it is, it's programming me. I like more instrumental stuff. But so I had mentioned that there is like a barrier between our conscious and unconscious mind, and it's kind of hard to go in. I have developed a technique that can help people go into their unconscious, and it's kind of one of the main practices I do right now. And what inevitably we get to as a cause of a person's problem or their resistance or their challenge or temptation, it comes down to four things, is what I found. One is undeserving. And I believe Sean had talked a little bit about that. A lot of us have, even though we might consciously think that we deserve it or, yeah, and I can do it, we have these deep undeservings that is running the show and is sabotaging our lives from getting things because we don't deserve it. And so a lot of our temptations is really a temptation to sabotage and keep our lives in an undeserving state. The second thing is loneliness. Loneliness is painful. It's extremely painful. It's a kind of pain that can make a person go crazy. And it's so painful that our unconscious will do anything to keep us from avoiding it, which is why, we have the comment of the younger generation faces unique temptations, because a lot of these temptations is attempting to try to connect us with other people. But unfortunately, those things that a lot of people are doing are unhealthy. But the brain will pull us towards unhealthy behavior just to avoid loneliness. That's how painful loneliness is. So it drives a lot of our resistance and behaviors. The third thing is shame. Shame is also a very painful emotion, and it's so painful that our brain will do whatever it can to keep us from feeling it. And one of the ways it'll do that is to distract us, and the way it distracts us is through various temptations. And fourth, and most importantly, doesn't get talked about a lot, and in fact, it's a concept I've been developing recently because of this technique that I've developed and how it embedded, how for a lot of people we go into that. There's a concept called self-hate. There's a lot of self-hate, and I've traveled to a lot of countries around the world, and I would say here in the US, there's a lot of it, like more than anywhere else. And it's driving a lot of our destructive behavior, especially as it relates to temptations. So, kind of like to answer your question, where is this coming from or stemming? I really believe is these four things: undeserving, loneliness, shame, and self-hate.
That's deep, Cam. That's deep.
Yeah, if I could add one thing on the because one of the things that's really big for me, and even something I work on, and it's difficult when you're trying to run somewhat of a coaching business, any business, is social media addiction, social media connectivity. Um, that I call it pings, rings, and dings. Microsoft Teams in an unhealthy work culture is probably the worst tool for productivity known to man, because everyone assumes that they have instant access to you, and that's part of the issue, right? Is that your phone, rather than, or your laptop, or whatever you're using to access, becomes a distraction when it was meant to be your tool. And so you have to take back control over those items, and it's hard because you get dopamine hits just like a drug. Every time that you hit on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn and you see a like or a comment, you get a dopamine hit. And so
Yeah.
I truly advocate for dopamine fast, and to fast from technology for a couple hours, if not one day a week. So I try on Saturdays not to access any social media or do any type of work. But I will say one benefit, from a spiritual standpoint, of social media and the algorithms, is that is a reflection of reality. And what I mean by that, it's been easier to teach people spiritual truths because of social media algorithms, because whatever you see on your feed is based on what you consume. And that and it's very fast. So when you go on my Instagram page or my Facebook page, all you see is motivational speaking, um, spirituality, some business stuff, and therapeutic stuff for like ADHD and stuff like that, because that's what I continuously consume. And I worked hard and I protect my algorithm. It's a funny story. I had a friend of mine who goes, "Yeah, I don't know why I always get like, the random, basically, half naked women coming up on my Instagram." And I kind of laughed and said, "I know exactly why you get it, because that's what you consume and it feeds you more of it." Well,
Yep.
the the good part of that is that's how actual reality works too. It's a little bit slower. Your physical reality is going to take a little bit longer to manifest your internal state, but whatever you're consuming and taking in internally will eventually manifest in the external. That's why everyone talks about so much about abundance mindset over scarcity mindset, self-love over self-hate, finding the resources and meeting those needs within yourself first before you look to the external. Because ultimately, whatever you cultivate, if you have a beautiful inner state, you will have a beautiful external reality. It may take some time, but it will happen.
Yeah, real quick on that. Just so if viewers know, we do have like 2 or 3 episodes on social media, mental health and social health, just to put it out there. But that's a huge thing, Sean. Is a lot of now. I feel 5, 10 years ago, everyone just the algorithm was the algorithm. Nowadays, like people have, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say hack the algorithm, but people are paying more mind. Where social media and the algorithm can be more of a tool. It can be positive, especially your feed sounds amazing for you. If you do the unfollow, snooze, get rid of all the negativity or whatever you don't want in your life, it can be a massive, massive boost. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Guys, we are at the point where we have to wrap this up. I know you all want to talk for another 6 hours,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, we have to come up with a daily challenge. This daily challenge must be a task or series of tasks that takes less than 5 minutes a day, costs $0, is available to anyone in the world from Mexico to Nicaragua, and helps us improve our spiritual health regarding temptation. What thoughts do you guys have?
I would start a meditation practice, 5 minutes a day. Start at 2 minutes if it's hard.
Okay.
For me, what helped me the most to contain my wanting mechanism was a daily gratitude practice. So every time I wake up, I used to try to write it down, but it took too much time. So as soon as I wake up, I just started saying thank you for the things I have. And if I can't think of something, I just start saying thank you. And the more I've done this, the more I've been appreciative of what I've had. I found the less my wanting mechanism is like trying to pull me to all these things because it knows that like I'm already happy and fulfilled and I am enjoying the things I have versus how it was in the past where even though I had nice things and I had good people, I lived in scarcity like always thinking of the next thing that I wanted. So if a person could, as soon as they wake up in the morning, just think about a few things that they are grateful for. And someone may not have a lot of things, but even someone who doesn't can find something that they are grateful for. And the more a person does that, the more things just kind of start coming into their life. And a lot of that scarcity and temptations start going away.
Okay, for me, the basic thing I would say, create 3 critical points in your day. Like as soon as you wake up, like in the middle of your day, just before you go to bed, or that time when you're winding down from something very high stress or work on, and say a prayer each time. But name it, put it as alarm. That naming something that reminds you that you aren't what you are doing right there. Something that will remind you that, and it only takes a couple minutes to do it. Like just take when that reminder comes on, especially in the middle of the day when people are reaching this high stress mode, and the alarm goes off on your phone. Make sure there's a message on that alarm that said tells you to pray, but it always gives you something positive as well too. That this is not what you are doing. Take a prayer and remember that God loves you.
All right, we've got some ideas here. I like it. All right, so gratitude and meditation. Let's do something unique with those. Is there a way that we can target and focus those into temptation? maybe we think of something that often tempts us. Could be a diet, could be a person, and maybe we think of gratitude things surrounding that problem or dilemma. Everyone has something they're tempted with. You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes.
believe so.
Yep.
So if I'm feeling tempted
So I guess
and want to
I'm
do
trying
something or
to
have something,
narrow this into. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I'm saying like just to speak in terms of gratitude, if I am feeling tempted or wanting something or something that I know is not going to be healthy, I can just immediately think about all the things I already have or the things that I appreciate or the things that I'm grateful for. And that could be enough to reduce that temptation in that moment. Is that something what you're looking for?
No.
And yeah,
Yeah. So I think that your guys' tips are great, but I'm going to try to start off the challenge with identifying something that might tempt you that day. Maybe it's a flight to somewhere. Maybe it's skipping out on work. Maybe something that you just. I mean, we all. I think that's gonna be easy, right? We all can
Yeah.
pinpoint something tempting every day. I hope.
Yeah.
So if this, go ahead, Damien. Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
I'd say if you want to create something unique for that, a temptation always has a counteractive state to it. So there's something you want to reach, but the temptation always blocks that thing you want to reach. I say you make that thing that is your goal, whether it's your kids, your wife, your family, put that goal there. That way, that when that temptation comes that day, look at your goal and remember why you're not doing, you're walking away from this temptation. That instant, if you love or you want to reach that goal bad enough, if you love those people bad enough, you're gonna at that time you're gonna pull yourself away from that temptation.
Okay, I've
yeah.
got a hodgepodge of words. Go ahead, Sean.
Similarly, the reason I started with the meditation practice, and I think there's a way to gel all the concepts together, is meditation to me is a form of prayer. So to Damien's point about picking times to pray each day, my favorite form of prayer is through meditation. I am a man of faith. I am a Christian, and so when you think about a meditation technique similar to Cam's gratitude, is start with gratitude into your meditation, especially if you're new to meditation. That's a great practice to start, and I would use the meditation slash prayer time to ask your non-conscious, your subconscious God to bring to your awareness what is the root of the temptation. What are the intentions? What are you trying to manifest through the temptation? That way you can truly get to the point where you can connect. Because for me, I'm sure Cam has some great tips too. I'd love to hear them. For me, meditation was the way that I connected my conscious to my non-conscious mind, and I got those answers for myself so that I could heal those root causes.
All right, here's what I think I've got that sounds solid. It's a little bit long. So essentially, we're going to wake up and think of a goal and ways that we may be tempted from that goal. Then we'll go and think of gratitude and meditate. Um, Probably gratitude first, and then meditate on those things that you're grateful for your goal you're going for that day. We call it like an MET, most important task, or MIT. And then meditate on how you're going to kind of avoid the potential temptation to accomplish that goal for the day. Imagine if we hit all 7 goals for 7 days. That'd be kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Looks like we lost Damien. I don't know. He might have had.
I'll say I really like that challenge because
Me too. Yeah.
I would set micro goals, small goals, because the more that you can keep your word to yourself, that builds confidence and self-love.
Yeah. So 1 day goal, I don't know. Today I'm going to write a page in a book, or today I'm going to call 3 friends, or today, I've been putting this off for a week. I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to put my freaking laundry away. How many people
Yep.
that are single have that problem? Everyone, I think. Um, His phone overheated and shut it down. No worries. All right. Well, anyways, guys, thank you so much. Daily challenge sounds awesome. We're going to have a good time with that. I hope you guys join us in doing that. We're going to say goodbye to Cam and Sean. Thank you guys for coming out. And, temptation's tough. Oh, there's Damien. Hey, Damien. Thanks for coming out again, my man. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys learned a little bit. We got an awesome daily challenge. We're going to target it towards temptation and trying to figure out why and how temptation prevents us from accomplishing our goal. We're going to do one goal per day, little micro goals, and see if you can identify ways that you might get sidetracked and things might tempt you away from doing that goal. And then we'll take a little meditation and some prayer and some gratitude. Think of 5 things you're thankful for that can help you focus on that goal and not get tempted. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. We've got 2 last little sponsors I want to shout out real quick that were awesome. Jeremy Rodruck is awesome. He's the author of Lead Like a King. He's a coach to high-value dads that refuse to settle for a life of frustration. If you're tired of walking around on eggshells in your marriage, or if you're maybe on the verge of divorce, Jeremy's the guy to talk to. He has done hundreds, dozens of testimonials from people that have saved their marriage. So if you want to stay in your marriage, or if you want to see the right way to remove yourself, go check out Jeremy and Lead Like a King. Links being dropped. And our last sponsor, thank you so much for this episode, is Jesse Lewis, who is an awesome, hugely comedic hypnotist. Book him for your next show, or just go watch his podcast or follow him on socials. He's super funny and super smart. Rare combo. That's Jesse Lewis. And thank you all again for watching another episode. This was Spiritual Health and Temptation.